Alright, Dobber Dan, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joined today by Matt Davis, aka Mr. Dirty Harry, hip hop producer based in Zagreb. For those who don't know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
you, give us a little bit of background about yourself, how you got into music and whatnot.
Yeah, man. There was just always turntables in the house growing up. I grew up in the late 70s and, was born in the late 70s, grew up in the 80s. There's always turntables around, always music being played. There were times when we didn't have a TV or whatever. So it just was there. It was always there. And, when I was a young boy, I'd sit in the car with my mum and I'd have to take all the tapes out of the glove box. I was like the DJ in the car, making the tapes, and it just, it was always there. And when I got to high school, and I was sort of about 13 years old, I just saw a drum kit, and then it was like, okay, that's what I want to do. Up until that point, all of the gifts that I'd received on birthdays and Christmases, a lot of them were records. So the record collection was sort of growing in the background, and yeah, I don't know, man. I suppose coming together with like-minded people at a young age that also wanted to make music, whether it's metal or hip hop or punk or grunge, just being around loads of people that are kind of into music or doing stuff. When you just want something, you want to do something, you're just constantly sniffing it out and trying to explore. Oh man, where'd you get that turntable? Oh wow, what kind of guitar is that? Oh wow, man, that's a really nice snare drum. So it sort of just came through like just kind of natural curiosity. And then when you get a few little bits of broken equipment or whatever, or a turntable and a mixer, and you start kind of messing around with it in your bedroom, you start teaching yourself stuff, and then the mate comes over who maybe knows a bit more and schools you, and then you take that knowledge, so it was just, I never really had a lesson with anything. I just was constantly around people, like made sure that like the majority of my circle was sort of musical people or art, creative people that were doing something from all genres as well, So yeah, so it sort of, I suppose it started around 13, 14, and it's gone on since then. But when I got to like my early 20s, I'd had quite a bit of experience with like touring and residencies and gigs. And I started to take it a bit more seriously and sort of, research gear and go into studios on sessions and just watch over the engineer's shoulder. And I'm still learning, man. I'm still, after 20 years doing it, I still, I listen to a lot of the young kids coming up, the young producers who are doing some awesome stuff and rack their brains for knowledge, because you're never too old or too young to like exchange that knowledge, So, but yeah, that's basically me from about 13 to now. And when I got to the early 20s, started to take it a bit more seriously. Up until then, it was just trying to discover who you are, what kind of art you want to, how you want to express yourself. And I think I started to really make hip hop beats around 17 or 18, but on a really poor setup. I had like really poor equipment, but I just had an ear, I guess, for what I was trying to do. So I was like, yeah, this is me. Going to be a hip hop producer.
What would you say it was that made you gravitate towards hip hop particularly?
Well, breakdancing was the first sort of thing that moved me, which is obviously one of the key elements of hip hop. So I started to try and breakdance when I was in junior school in the UK. And I still got a pretty solid windmill, but that's about it, And it was just something that, when certain beats would come on, certain tracks would come on, hip hop tracks, you want to get down on the floor, move around and do stuff. So that was that. And then I enjoyed like this kind of like syncopated like vocals, I remember hearing, stuff like "Don't Believe the Hype" by Public Enemy, and like rapping along to it on the radio. I think like Tim Westwood, was playing it when it came out, and hearing, yes, it was the start of my last jam, but here it is again, another Def Jam, but since I gave it, and hearing that hearing those flows, it was like, oh, that's like a drum beat, that's like a, and so, and there was just something about just sounded fat. Just sounded so fat when it came on in the school discos and stuff like that. And I even used to roller skates, go to roller discos, and it would come on, and you just, there was like it was like no other genre to me at that time, because drum and bass wasn't really established. There wasn't any dubstep. There wasn't, the only music that was really incorporating things like 808s and stuff like that was hip hop. So when it came in, it was like the drums and everything like that. So, and then I had to go, had a very short-lived kind of time of trying to do graffiti, trying to do like tags and stuff. And I quickly realized that that's not my kind of area. Carried on breaking a little bit, and I would just do little dance routines in the lounge in front of my mum. She would have like a friend that would come over, and the friend would have like a son or a daughter that was about my age or something like that. And I'd take them upstairs to the bedroom and put on like a record, and like we'd learn a dance routine. We'd make up a dance routine, and then we'd go downstairs. My mum would be sitting there having a cup of tea, and I'd go, Mum, check out our dance. So we'd then put the record on the turntable, and then, do a dance to sort of like a hip hop track. And I just remember my mum's face, she'd be sitting there with her friend and a cup of tea, just looking like, oh, that's very nice, dear. Well done, We thought we thought we were fresh, man. But yeah, the sound, the look, when I understood about the elements of hip hop and graffiti and breaking, MCing and DJing and it all came together. It just kind of felt like, I don't know, like a culture that, it just pulled me in. There's no real, I didn't live anywhere that was like particularly rough. I wasn't around sort of people who were heavily in the scene till I was old enough to kind of go out. It just sort of grabbed me from hearing it on the radio, from hearing it at discos, and yeah, that's about it.
How do you work it with any UK MCs as you started to make beats and stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, I still do. When I started to really think that I was understanding hip hop and really be part of it, I had this dislike for British hip hop. Just couldn't stand it. Couldn't stand the accent. Couldn't stand the voice. I like stuff like Funky DL. And like, Brotherhood and London Posse and stuff like that. And I was kind of into that. But then for some reason in like the mid to late 90s, I was really just like, it was like, all just sounded like football thugs. And I was only doing beats and doing stuff with like local homies. When we started out doing stuff, we were all rhyming in American accents, which is sad, but that's what we grew up listening to. We grew up hearing hip hop in that way. So, even to this day as well, if someone pushes me into freestyling and I've had a wine or two, then you might hear me go, hey, yo, what up, son? And start talking like I'm from Brooklyn or something. But, yeah, but now, as I've sort of got older and I've had more, I suppose, international releases and done stuff on different labels, I kind of branch out and yeah, I have more of a love now for British hip hop. I love like the High Focus label and all the stuff that's coming out of there. I was a very big fan and bought nearly all the 12s from the Low Life Records, which was run by Brain Tax, which was a thing in the late 90s as well. Jest, Skinny Man, all that. I came back to it. It was like I disliked it for a while and then I came back to it. So now I just keep my eyes out and I've worked with quite a few British MCs, mostly, independent ones and underground ones that are still building and finding their voice. But because I've been away from England for so long, I'm quite out of the internet can only give you so much, as you know, and so I feel like quite a bit sort of out of touch with what's happening there. But yeah, man, mind and heart is always still open, and there's some good stuff happening in the UK at the moment for hip hop. Loving it.
You hit the nail on the head of exactly what I wanted to get to, which was the accent issue. Because I remember when everybody that I knew, everybody I can think of that I knew who started rapping, all started rapping in an American accent. And I remember when I wrote my first rhyme, I was like, I don't know, 14, 15. And I just remember I didn't do it. And I tried to think to myself, why didn't I do that? Because everybody else I know didn't. And the only thing I can think of why that might be that I didn't, because at the time, so I remember, so I went to school in Ireland for like 5 years between the age of 5 to 10. I came back to the UK and I had like an Irish accent, but then it was an Irish / this weird Americanish accent, because I was in a school of like international school of like so many kids, so I guess like our accents were all like mixing up. And then I remember I was like, I thought hip hop was okay, but I wasn't that into it until my cousin, he just brought me a mixtape literally like on a cassette tape. He's like check this out. And most of it was like, oh, okay. And then it was what song really hit me was Common, Payback is a Grandmother. I remember hearing that and I was like, okay, this is dope. This is like, the dude's wrote a whole story. It's like poetic and it's to music. And I was already just writing poetry anyway. So I was like, okay, I can do this. And I guess it was around the same time, who was I listening to on the radio? DJ 279. And he played a lot of UK hip hop. Like, whereas, like, I don't know, for example, like Westwood for years always just played American dudes. And like when he did start playing UK MCs, it was mostly grime garage guys. So I don't know what is like. There's like obviously people listen to American hip hop majority like growing up, so that's a huge influence of that. But like you mentioned Funky DL, and that, in my opinion, for me, I feel like Funky DL is one of the most underrated MCs in the UK, and I always think it goes back to the accent thing. I think people were like, he's rapping with an American accent, like that's not real or whatever. But
it was there was something in there that you knew. It wasn't just because he's from the UK that you knew he's from the UK, but he had I don't know. I guess it was just the content, some of the stuff that he said. You know, where there was you kind of knew that he was English, but you like let him get away with it. But I don't know, man. I've been way more forgiving in the years. You know, I had a problem for a while as well with any hip hop from the north when they talk like that, and you're right, mate. You know, I love that accent now, and I've got so many homies up there. But like hearing hip hop like with that accent, and also like some Scottish hip hop as well, like the Scottish MCs. I'm trying to remember, I got a 12-inch with some Scottish MCs, and it's you know what, it's all right. My kind of respect for it has come later than maybe it should have, because there's some great artists. But when it comes to like English speaking hip hop, the one accent that I have still not really grown to love is the Australian accent in hip hop. Okay. Like there can be some real I mean there's some great artists in Australia, but like when they really get going and try and get grimy and try and, you know, it's like, mate, oh, you know, and I don't want to disrespect the country or the accent, but I suppose it's not that it's bad. It's not that they're bad. It's just like what you grew up with listening to is what you grew up with listening to. And if I was living in Australia, no doubt I would be bumping tons of Australian hip hop, because I lived in New Zealand for 5 years and I was doing that as well. I was schooling myself all the time. And in New Zealand, they have this tendency to particularly a lot of the Polynesian, Samoan, and Tongan MCs, they do go more towards an American accent. Some don't, but majority do, I think. You know, and when you hear it, you think like, oh wow, sounds like they're from like LA or something like that, or they're from you know, from the East Coast or something. So it's I think it's what you're around. You know, I can't honestly now, being older and being involved for so many years, I can't sit around and go, oh yeah, you got a shit accent, or yeah, that sounds whack, you know, because it's like you just got to be open-minded. Now I live in Croatia, and half the dudes that I work with here, all the dudes I work with here, I understand maybe 50-60% of what they're rapping on my beats, you know, but the feeling of the flow of the content, that's a whole other thing. I feel that straight away, you know. But it's really when I first came to Croatia, I was trying to see who I could work with and see what MCs were doing, you know, stuff that I kind of felt like lyrically was smart, or I could resonate with, or was done well. And I would do some tracks just to kind of get a rep, or just to connect with people. And I remember I was checking one dude out. I can't remember his name, and even if I did know his name, I shouldn't really say it. But I can't remember who it was. But he sent me, oh man, I want to hook up, want to do some tracks, and sent me a message. And so I trolled him, and I checked out all of his stuff that was out there, and I was playing some tracks to my wife, who is Croatian. And I said, "What's this fellow rhyming about, love? What's he going on about?" And she said, "Yeah, it's just tits and weed. It's just tits and weed. That's what he's going on about." And I was like, I don't know if I want to open my production account in Croatia with rolling with dudes like that. Incidentally, I've done tracks with dudes that talk about tits and weed, which I think a lot of people enjoy. But it was just like, there's an even more bigger thing for me to overcome here, is that the language is quite tough. It's quite, if you don't know a few basic phrases in any of the Balkan Jeziks, then you might have trouble listening to the hip hop, here, because I think it was potentially, I don't remember who it was. It was someone from the first, second generation of Croatian hip hop that said nobody could really rhyme. Nobody knew how to rhyme in Balkan Jezik for quite some time, up until maybe the mid 90s, when you start hearing it. There's a project in Zagreb that's being coordinated at the moment by Fat Philly, where he's uncovered all of these recordings from MCs in Croatia from like the 80s, these like tape sessions that have come off the radio, and you've got like MCs that are coming through, and they're rhyming over like Afrika Bambaataa beats and these kind of beats that were coming out at the time. And they're all rhyming in English. Everything is in English. And it sounds wicked, and it sounds raw, because they got like this little accent going on, this kind of Slavic accent. But it's, I don't know, I'm not too much of a hardcore historian here to know who were the first kind of group that really released, a full kind of Balkan rap album, that was completely in Hrvatski Jezik or Srpski Jezik or whatever, but I'm sure there would be a few of the OGs that would fight and go, "Oh well, actually it was like Macedonia that put the first one out. No, in Serbia there was this little crew, So I don't know. I wouldn't want to say, but just like for me to learn a little bit of the language here has helped me to kind of like work with artists and maybe even encourage them to flow a line differently, and just to understand, what they're saying a little bit more. But it's still difficult, still a very difficult language. I don't know it fluently, but
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat with that. Like, I'm really, like, during this pandemic, I've really tried to focus on really trying to get as fluent as I can be, because I like my level of understanding, or like passive understanding, let's call it, is quite high. Like, I'll be in situations where somebody will say something to me, and I know exactly what they said, but the vocabulary to respond isn't there. It's like, I know what you said. I know you're saying to me, but like the vocabulary. And then I also do this thing where which I need to break the habit of, but I also do this thing where I think of what I want to say in English, and then try and translate it directly. And then that doesn't always work though, because like the grammar structure is different. So, and
the word order as well. The word, if you think about, like, I always use the example when you say, idem na kavu. Idem na kavu, which is a simple phrase. Anyone that is, that doesn't, is not from the region or doesn't understand. Idem na kavu. Let's go on a coffee. That's the literal translation. Let's go on a coffee. So if you literally translate into English, it sounds like we're going to go on top of a coffee. Where are you going? I'm going on a coffee. I'm going on it. So it's a fucking giant coffee and I'm going on. But then if you literally translate it from English back to Balkan, Balkan Jezik, it would be idem za kavu. Exactly. And so the preposition of na and za changes, and then it sounds like you're going. Someone told me that sounds hairy, like you're going around the coffee. So I think it's a combination of like trying to think in Croatian or Bosnian, whichever Jezik you're trying to get down, trying to think in that language, and then but that day to day rhythm that we have, when you go in a shop and you buy a thing and our brains kind of unconsciously operate in a sort of rhythm about how we're moving that day, so it's like, when you go in a shop and go, oh, hey, how's it going? Can I have this? Can I have that? And, you kind of, you just operate in that kind of rhythm. But then when you get thrown like a curveball, when someone says, oh, that's kind of an interesting accent, where are you from? And then you just sort of sit there and go, oh, shit, But they say it in their mother tongue. That's what hits me. That and the grammar, the padej.
That's crazy.
Changing the word like 7 times, you know what I mean? It's we have in England, in English, you've got a glass and glasses. There's a glass of beer. There's 2 glasses of beer. Have you got a glass? Whose glass is that? Is that your glass? Those are my glasses. And that's how it goes twice. We're changing it twice, like plural and like singular. Glass is glass. But in Balkanski Jezik, they're changing it 7 times depending on the context. So I'm in the glass, u čašu.
Yeah.
I'm going with the glass, čaša, and it's just like I don't even know them all. That was a huge fear for me when I first came here, because I'd go into a bakery and I'd be like staring at all the pastry, going, "Oh man, I don't know how to grammatically make this transaction right," And now I don't even have that fear. I just go in there and say what I think it is and point and smile and just keep it polite.
Yeah. For the most part, I found that when you're trying, people are very accommodating. When you're trying.
Definitely.
And like I have got a situation like the apartment I stay in when I'm in Sarajevo now. There's a Consum like right on the corner.
Oh yeah.
And that Consum and all the shops along that street, they've basically done this. They've all come into this agreement where when I come in now, they won't serve me unless I'm trying to speak in Bosnian. So like I literally I go in and like I'm at the checkout and the lady's like, "What's this?" Like I gotta say all the items before she.
You got like a test.
And at first I thought, okay, fair enough. Like I'm always coming in there, like foreign influencing, but mostly speaking English, and maybe they're just, oh, this guy, man, he's been there, like, he spent so much time here. Like, how's he not, speaking well?
Yeah.
But I heard the lady who started it, the concept, she was talking to her, I think her granddaughter in the USA, and her daughter, and she speaks like amazing English. Like her English is amazing. Yeah. I was like, okay, so you're really just, you're just putting me through the lessons. I'm like, that's fair enough.
Like, man, I think it's super respectful when you go to a country that isn't of the language that you've grown up with, and that you just get a few words down.
Yeah.
I had the intention of learning and being completely fluent here. I studied in the Filozofski Fakultet in Zagreb for about 3 months. I think it was 3 or 4 months. I was going every day for like 3 hours. Just wanted to, be able to not be like a fucking typical English, like, all right, mate, how's it going? Gonna get Stella? Just be respectful and show that, okay, you obviously know that I'm not from here, but why don't I just make an effort? So doing that, I ended up teaching English at the same time as well. And then more and more, just people would hear that I've got an accent and they go, it's okay, so you can talk in English. And everyone just wanted to talk in English with me, really. So the only time that I use Croatian now is if I'm on my own, if I'm just going out, if I'm going to the supermarket, or I'm out in the city doing some things, or I'm in a restaurant with kids or something like that. I mean, my kids speak better Croatian than I do, really, to be honest, but I still do it. I still make that effort. It's just when we're in a social scenario or a party or something like that, there's always that one person that's like, oh, so you don't speak Croatian? I'm like, yeah, well, I do, but we can't really talk about love and politics right now. Right. But I can tell you about the pizza I just had. It was really nice. Slavonska, Luti Ulmak, Ivar, super Boris. So, It's you got to make the effort. And I even in the early days when I would make trips to like France and stuff like that, I would just get some basics down. I remember some stuff from school that I learned. Certainly nowhere near conversational level, but just to show respect. You know?
I don't know if you ever get into the situation, but I feel like that's why I know there's a lot of like dormant information just in my brain there, but I guess it's because I still primarily think in my first language, which is English, where it's like harder to access. But I get into pressure situations where all of a sudden I appear to be close to fluent because I have no choice in the situation. For example, I remember, I think it was the last time I was in Zagreb. I was in the center waiting for the tram. And this old man came up to me and just tried to make conversations like, you know, what are you doing here? You know, whatnot. And I was trying to politely say like, you know, I don't speak Croatian well, but he just kept talking. So I was like, all right. So he really wants the conversation. So I was like, you know, like palako, just slow it down a bit so I can catch it. So he said something and I just kind of went on instinct. I didn't think too much. I just went, okay, I know what he said. I'm just gonna, and then like, I said something and I was like, okay, he understood. And then like, we ended up talking for like a good 15 minutes. And I didn't use English once. The only thing that happened every now and again, he'd be like, oh, that's Bosanski. You're speaking Bosanski because I'm mostly, that's the only thing that would happen. But other than that, it was like, oh, okay. So it's like, there's certain situations where I'm fine. I'm not even thinking. I'm just, the other situation is with some racket. With some racket, I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I think maybe that's half the battle, though, bro. Is that, you know, not overthinking it too much and just diving in. And well, when I lived in New Zealand, we had some family come out from Croatia, some older members of the family who really speak very limited English. So I was sort of in a bit of a tour guide mode, taking people around, but I was just speaking Croatian. I don't know where it came from, you know, because I hadn't used it for like 2 years, and then they came out and I was just speaking. And they said, "Well, Matt, you know, you really remembered a lot from your time." And I was thinking, well, you know, I did live the first period that I was in Croatia was like 8 years, and then now we've been back for 2 years, so it's 10 years in total. But you, when you're hearing it day to day, and I hear my kids speak it, I hear it on the tram, I hear it everywhere. You know, it does stick. But if you give me a book and say, okay, I get to the end of the sentence and I just forget the sentence that I just read and think, I wonder what records there are out there on the internet. Let's go digging. I'm just totally distracted by my music 24/7.
What brought you to Croatia the first time? Like your first period of living in Croatia?
First time was family, straight up. My grandfather is from the Međimurje region, sort of in the north. And he'd always encouraged me. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents growing up, and he always encouraged me to come out. And yeah, I was planning sort of to come out, but I'd put out sort of a mixtape at the time. So I jumped on MySpace, which was kind of there was no Facebook back then, and it was just, you know, MySpace, and it was wicked. It was a wicked way of just networking with like-minded people. It's much harder to do that now, I think, on Facebook. It feels more intrusive. But anyway, I started to just try and connect with as many people as I could here that were on MySpace and in the scene, you know. So I'm doing stuff. So when I came out, I think I even managed to like hustle a gig in Zagreb as well. And gave out some mixtapes, met some people, and well, you know, one of those people happened to be my now wife, so kind of just kept coming back because it was very difficult at that time as well for Croatians to come to work or live in England because they hadn't joined the European Union, and Gordon Brown was a bit of a dick about immigration stuff as well, if I remember correctly. So in the end, you know, in order for our relationship to continue, for our love to blossom, I had to say, all right, I'm going to move to Croatia, you know, and it was cool. The timing worked out really well. I was never really too happy about being in England, but I just felt like, you know, I want to be somewhere smaller where I can, you know, connect with the people. And I mean, mainly I want to be with this girl who's my wife. But but yeah, so the first thing that drew me there was family, reconnected. It was really nice. It was good. And I still, we still connect to this day. They have the really good homemade, wine and rakia and the sausage and the grach and all the the great food that you can get in the Balkans. They're making it, and I just came back, and I never really, England was never really like, it was never like home to me really.
Okay.
So I don't come from like a traditional sort of British family, it's quite international, quite a lot of different nationalities in there. So I don't get to, I don't get sort of people, oh, but you wish you were back in England. Not really. No, not with Brexit and the over hyping of the coronavirus. No, I'm quite happy to be here actually. So yeah.
MySpace was definitely the one, because that's exactly how I connected with the Balkans in general. I don't know if you remember on MySpace they had these programs called MySpace Friend Adders.
No. I don't.
So basically, I think how you could add, I think it was 100 people a day on MySpace or something like that, 150
Jesus.
people. But obviously, who has the time to actually sit down and add 150 people? So with these programs, what you would do is, you would go on, like, you remember they had the music charts and stuff like that?
Yeah.
You could go on any page, like, what I used to do is go on, like, music charts of different countries, and it would collect the, profile IDs of everybody on that page, and then you would just, like, click, and it would send a request.
Right.
I would do that, and then I would do it on, then you could also do it, you could add other people's friends in the exact same way. So I do that.
Yeah.
So I ended up like, and for every country I would go to, I just find out to say, like, hello, how are you? Because they used to have this, like they called it a note. So with your friend request, there's like a little note, like a message that came with a request. So I was putting in a Zdravo Kakosi when I was doing all the former Yugoslav countries. And this rumor started in Belgrade that there's this rapper in London who speaks Serbian. I didn't understand a lick of Serbian, but I just Google translated this, how to say hello, how are you? And this rumor started like, oh, there's this rapper in London and he speaks Serbian, and like people started messaging me, and I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? So now I'm like on Google Translate messaging back, and I ended up me connecting with loads of different artists, and I did a couple of songs with people.
Awesome, man.
And ended up going to Belgrade to simultaneously shoot a music video and do my final university project, because I was studying film studies at the time. And
cool.
Our final project was like, you could do a film about whatever you wanted to. So I thought, okay,
right,
a documentary about Serbian hip hop, and we had to give these presentations before they allowed us to go and do our films. I remember going up, and the lecturer was like, so Nick, tell us, what's your film about? I said Serbian hip hop, and the whole room was just silent. Like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah.
Lecturer was like, what'd you say? I said, Serbian hip hop. They're like, what's that? It's hip hop that comes out of Serbia. They're like, how you gonna do it? I'm gonna go to Serbia. They're like, oh, you're crazy, man. You might get shot over there, and I'll be careful. And I remember coming to Belgrade with this trepidation, like, oh my God, everyone's telling me how dangerous. And I had the best 2 weeks of my life. Like, the hospitality, like, it was crazy. Did anybody in the UK tell you, like, anything about, like, when you were moving to Croatia, did they have any preconceived notions about what it was going to be like for you? Or?
No, none at all. I mean, because my grandfather was Croatian, I have a Croatian middle name as well.
Okay.
And I kind of, it was always in the house. It was always around. When I stepped into my grandparents' house, I felt like I was stepping into like a house in, somewhere in the Međimurje. There was Croatian flags and stuff on the wall. Not flags, but like there'd be like a little poems and stuff like that, and rakia glasses and stuff like that. And then someone from Croatia would call my grandfather, and he'd go in the hallway on the phone, and I'd hear him speaking in Croatian, and we'd all hear him. And he spoke with a very broken English accent. So you know, when I was coming to Croatia, this might sound a bit wild and a bit cheesy, but you know, I kind of felt like I was sort of upholding the promise I made to him that I would come here one day. Now, obviously, when things were happening here and there were times of conflict, I was too young to be really paying attention to what we were seeing on the TV in the UK. And I just remember my grandfather being glued to the chair and just watching that. But you know, when I came here for the first time, it didn't even cross my mind because I was so focused on this is really exciting. I'm going to a new country. I'm going to go and see my family. I'm going to hopefully meet some of these dudes I've told about the mixtapes. You know, can't wait to just, and I'm a traveler anyway. I've traveled quite a lot and I love to be in new places. I'm highly stimulated by being just in new environments and walking down new streets and meeting people and tasting new food and learning about the culture. I love it. I always have loved it. So I guess it wasn't until I moved here and I lived here that I started to just learn more about those times. Really, it's still something that I don't ever press anyone or talk about. I think it's as a non-Balkan person, I don't. You know, it's just. I guess it's a sensitive subject, and I don't want to like. You know, if people want to talk about it to me, then I listen. I try and take knowledge, but certainly no one anywhere. And I've travelled into every Balkan country. I've never met anyone, no matter how drunk or high or how nationalist or not. I've never met anybody that's told me that I shouldn't go anywhere in the Balkans because this is too dangerous or that's too dangerous. It's been, and I don't know if that's because I move in art circles primarily and in music, whereas in music, I think that music, it kind of can bring people together,
right?
No matter what your background demographic, it sort of can bring people together. So don't know, man. I never really embraced or even thought about that. I was just thinking about, you know, all the good stuff, the country, the people, the coast, the women, the food, the music, the, you know, culture. I love them. I love them all. I love all the Balkan countries, man. I mean, I'm always excited if I'm going to Slovenia or I'm going to Bosnia or I'm in Belgrade or I love Skopje, man. I always come back from Skopje a little bit fatter, you know, because the food down there is crazy good. But yeah.
Yeah, Skopje is always reminds me of Sim City. To me, like the amount of monuments, I don't know, but I love being in Skopje, but just the look of it always reminds me of like somebody was playing SimCity.
Yeah, and they have in Skopje the double-decker buses, like the London buses.
Yeah, that threw me off.
And I remember being down there with a friend, and I saw one come around the corner. I said, "Oh my god, man, that's like a double-decker bus. It's like a red, like the London ones." And a friend turned around, and he said, "Yeah, mate, you know where they got those from, don't you?" And
China, right?
About to say London. He's like, "Yeah, China, China." But love Skopje. Shout out to DJ Gotta and DJ Chwari. They're my two homies down there that I go and I DJ with them a lot. And yeah, man. But it's a wicked place. It's really cool. There was I think it's still there, but it's changed. In Skopje, there was a restaurant, and I think it was called Tito's Place. I may be wrong, but I think it was called Tito's Place. Most people, from Skopje, if I said that, they'd go, "Oh yeah, I know the joint." And you go in there. I don't know if it was a restaurant that he built or commissioned or he was heavily a part of. But when you go in there, it's like it was like a Tito museum. Like the pictures on the wall, the memorabilia, the way the waiters and waitresses are dressed, the kind of tables, and all the food is just classic, like Balkan food from sarma to like types of goulash and the little sarmicas with the grape leaves. Oh man, I love those. Oh, my lips are I'm drooling. But it was a really cool spot. Someone recently told me it might not be there, but when I went in there, that was like the most Yugoslavian I've ever felt, because it was like really the memorabilia, the whole, it felt like it hadn't changed since those times. And just the pictures on the wall were fascinating. Pictures of him with I think with Kennedy and stuff. And yeah, it was a cool spot. But it was called Tito's Place, and I think I hope it's still going, but I feel like it's not. It's a great spot, and you can find all over the Balkans these like little, as they call them, kafanas, these little spots where it's just from the outside it might not look like anything special, and then you go inside and you're going to bite into the best tomato you've ever had in your life, or they're getting things locally, or they're making their own rakia and stuff, and it's just like, you know, when people come over from the UK or friends come over from overseas and they come visit me and they're like, yo, Harry, man, take us somewhere to get some Balkan cuisine. I'm like, I don't know, man. You're spoiled for choice. Where should we go, man? There's so many joints, you know. So, end up just taking them to McDonald's and going, fuck off, man. You don't understand. Nah, jokes. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
I've seen that, I believe you've been working on a few things with Tone Tuora.
Yeah. We haven't really made too much of a song and dance about it, but we're making some recordings. We're stockpiling them. He comes here once a week. We sit here in the studio. I make something, normally based on how he's feeling that day or that week, or what he's been listening to. Sort of try and tap into a vibe that's similar. We're just gathering some tracks. We're hopefully going to be dropping a video real soon. That's sort of the plan at the moment. But yeah, I worked with him before when I was here before, on some of his own projects where he needed me to, I don't know, he wanted a remix or wanted me to do some cuts or something like that. But he's just, he's a very energetic, very enthusiastic guy that's really just wants to go out there and do stuff. So, it's nice to be in a project with him. Because I know that it won't just be like a recording that we toss on the internet and throw away. I think you can expect to see some live shows. You can expect to see maybe some physical media arriving. So it's really dope that that he's just got that hunger to want to go out, and I think because a lot of the times these days as well, people, especially younger people who are sort of making music and they're putting it on the internet, they kind of don't think about the side. When you make an album, if you're a rapper or a singer or you're in a metal band or whatever, if you make an album and then you just put it out there and it's on SoundCloud or it's on Spotify, that's really only like 50% of the product. The other 50% is like, well, what does it look like live? How can they do it? What does this crew look like live? Can you really do that guitar solo live? So it's, I think it's a big part of delivering something, like putting it out there. And with Tone, I think, when we sort of decided that we would work on something, that was kind of like something we shook hands on, that we're gonna, okay, once we put this thing out, let's go out and play. Let's go and play with it and see what kind of a cool live show we can make. And obviously with Corona times, hopefully things are going to improve when we can all get back out there and express ourselves a bit more freely. But I'm really, it's really an easy project to work on so far with him, touch wood. And it's just going along at a nice pace. Things are happening, things are getting done. Any MC as well, to me, that has their own setup at home with a decent mic and a sound card or something like that. It doesn't have to be like crazy expensive stuff, but like if you can be in a session and take a beat away and then go home and pen your rhymes and then record something decent at home and then send it back to the producer or whatever, which is sort of how we do it. You can really make fast progress that way. You can really like get through the tunes. I've worked with so many cats that they come through my studio and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna record in the studio here, and I'm like, well, this is a studio. I mean, I know it hasn't got like a 52 channel desk and all of the state of the art gear, but I've got a decent mic, I've got gear, and I know what I'm doing. Oh no, we'd rather pay money and go into a studio and then send you the stems. So there are people that do that, but I think like when you're making music or art or anything like that, any kind of art, it's really useful to have your own setup, just so you can keep recording yourself or documenting yourself somehow. So that's what's made this project go quite well, is that You know, he's got a good little setup there, and he's just on it all the time. You know, as well, every day, almost every couple of days, dialogue being kind of exchanged about, oh yeah, done this, and I'll go redo the hook and put some cuts there, and it's just like, I wish all my projects could have gone like that, because it's just funny. It's just good communication. That's all it is. Being able to communicate and not getting hurt. You know, sometimes I might make a beat and he doesn't like it, and he goes, "Hear it," and I don't like that beat, and I go, "Okay, man, that's cool. Well, let's find one you do like. Let's make one you do like." And the same with him. He might rap something, and I'll be like, "Bro, that the way you said that line is a little bit played out. The flow, it's a little bit like typical. Let's just try and say that line differently." You know, when you can communicate in that way and not let your ego get hurt,
Right. Yeah.
you're just progressing. That's all you're doing. You're just progressing, evolving, growing, and it's wicked, man. You know, he's open like that. So yeah, Tone and Hairy. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it will be this year, and it's exciting. And yeah, both pushing each other to do some cool stuff.
Yeah, I think you hit a really important note there with when it comes to what I found anyway working with other artists, this balance of just the artistry and ego that artists can sometimes bring.
Yeah,
it's like, I remember this one dude from California who wanted to do something with me, and I was like, all right, cool, let's work on something. Sent me a couple of beats, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And then he sent me a song which is like he's like a couple of his songs, and I was just like, okay, this is not really. If this was like, he was just talking about weed and basically weed, more or less. I was just like,
yeah.
I don't even smoke. Like, I don't know what am I gonna bring to this. So I was just like,
Yeah.
you know, I was just like, yeah, keep doing your thing, but it's it's not really not for me. I was as diplomatic as I could possibly be, and he just came back with, yeah, well, I don't like your shit anyway, bro.
And true.
Yeah, he's like, your shit's whack. And I remember thinking, bro, you came to me though. So where's this come from? And I'm just like, this is just all ego now, because we were having a nice discussion, whatever.
Yeah.
I've been as polite as I can be. It's not even like I said he was bad. It was just like, I don't know what I can bring to this, personally.
Yeah.
And then he just flipped out. And I've had a few situations like that where I'm like, okay, that's a bit weird. But yeah, so I think it's always good.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I think as well, when you put a lot of energy into something, you create something. It might be, okay, we're talking about hip hop. Might be a beat, it might be a cake, it might be a dress, it might be something where you want to sort of share it with people, you know. And then when it's, you know, it can be hard for people to take criticism to kind of hear it. But like, I learned just over the years that it's growth, it's part of growth. But it's also like not for that one person as well. If I make a beat and Tone doesn't like it, someone will, you know, and the other way around as well, you know. It's which is why for years, you know, close rappers and friends that will come to my studio, they're just sitting on my computer when I go out to the fridge to get some beers or whatever, and they're just going through folders. Is this one taken, Harry? Is this one taken, Harry? You know, just like play some stuff, but you know, you have to be able to take that critique to grow, and I'm still taking it now. You know, I play a lot of my stuff to people that don't know anything about hip hop, and just, you know, because sometimes they're the most honest critiques. You know, I'll just play them something, or you know, one of my kids might walk in. You know, if they're singing it, or they hear it, or they're nodding their head to it, then that's sort of like that's my kind of approval, really. I don't seek it so much, but I know a lot of people do. They want to put something out there, and to be honest with you, to be brutally honest, in the MySpace era, that's probably what pushed me over into saying, I'm going to take this seriously now. I was already thought like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and I'm really serious, and I want to make beats, and I want to work with like US MCs and blah blah blah. But then on MySpace, you know, you could throw a beat up, and then like 2 hours later, like 20 people had commented on it or something like that. And the algorithms with the internet were different back then. When you post something up, like everyone sees that shit. You know, nowadays, like, you know, I don't know, it's a different ball game. It's like I've seen friends of mine as well who are quite well known, and they've got, thousands and thousands of followers, but they all of a sudden, whenever it was, said, "Oh man, the visibility on my posts is shit. I've got 10,000 people following me, but like 50 people saw the post." And, so those times weren't so prevalent back then. So when you put something out there, you would get that kind of instant feedback, and it would like fill you with do you know what as well, man? I have to say, in that time, there was less like sort of shit posting on the internet. And there was less negativity. I still follow the same, I guess, code, if you like, now than as I did then, where if someone puts a beat or a track or something online and I don't like it, I don't have to like put a thumb down or like tell them why I don't like it. You just scroll or go to the next video or do whatever I'm doing, because like I only want to say good things about people and about their things. There's just no energy really moving forward to if somebody asks me for some critique, that's different, and I've done that. If someone's come and said, what did you think of the show? What did you think of that? And I'll say, and I'll give an honest balance of like what I thought was great and what I thought could be improved. But I'm not going to just go straight out there and just, try and tell people, you don't know the fuck, it's just, I don't think I've ever hit the dislike button on YouTube. And people I know do it because they just don't like that dude. I don't like you, so I'm going to press download. And it's like, come on, man, the beat's hot. What are you doing? Don't be such a hater. But people do it because it's in them, but they need to. The only time I'd hit the dislike button if I saw something that was like, unnecessarily violent or racist or, that was harming other people. But like in art, it's all subjective anyway, it's like whatever you feel, whatever you love. So
no, I have the exact same perspective when it comes to that. I was talking to my friend the other day about that. Like because there's so much stuff out there online. It's like I don't see what you get from going, oh yeah, that's shit. Like what do you get from that? Like if the only way it's not even like the thing is, people are like, oh, and when you say you don't like stuff like that, people are like, oh no, it's just criticism. But I'm like, I don't even think that's criticism. Because for me, like, criticism would be like, okay, I don't like it because of this, that, and the other, and maybe you could improve it in this way. That's criticism. Fine. But just to be like, that's shit.
True.
What's that? That's not criticism. You're just...
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, you're right. And sometimes that shit, it just comes from like a place of, I guess, hate or jealousy more. Like, I know I've come across people who are, I could do better than that. And well, you're not though. You're not doing anything. You're just doing your job. Like if you can do better than that, like show the world. Then make me look shit if that's what your voyage is. You know what I mean? But I think you just got to compete with yourself. Just try. I started, I guess, 21, 22 years ago making hip hop, and I'm better now than I was when I started. Because I'm not afraid to be someone to tell me, "Yo, Harry, man, too much on the kick drum. Yo, Harry, man, that sample is da da da." Well, I'm not afraid to take that, and I'm also not afraid to like be schooled by anyone. It doesn't matter if you're like techno producer and you're teaching me how to, mix something, or you're a young kid that's just rocked Fruity Loops for like 2 years, but maybe you're getting a certain kind of bass sound. I think we've all got something that we can pass on, and we shouldn't I never look down on people and go like, yeah, what do you know? You're just a kid with it, because there's something there he or she can teach. Right. And that's the way, again, that I think we evolve ourselves and move forward. It's just by not being afraid to give and receive knowledge, and in our craft, whatever it is that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. I noticed. I haven't been to Zagreb at all since this whole lockdown. But prior to that, I had noticed that grime events were popping up. Like grime.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I'm not too in the know of what's happening with the grime. I know there's a fella by the name of Rofellas, and he's a sort of a promoter DJ. I think he was involved or still involved with a crew called the Dragonmeister crew, which was sort of quite a big kind of grime crew from Zagreb. And I think anything that's going on that's big is kind of going through him, through Rofellas, and he's as I've seen, been putting on parties and promoting and that sort of stuff. But I'm a little bit detached from that scene. I'm probably a bit more into the all the other stuff that isn't grime. I do like grime, and I love to hear it, but I'm not like I don't like make it or DJ it, but like my kids sometimes listen to it, and that's not like to like lower what it is. My kids just like that kind of like modern sound and those dirty sounds, and like I do too, but I just don't like delve into it as much as I should, really.
Yeah, because I remember when I first started writing lyrics, there was definitely in the UK there was like this separation between grime MCs and hip hop MCs, and it was actually people actually used to say, like, if you were a hip hop MC, you're a rapper. And if you're in, well, it wasn't even grime then, it was garage before that.
Actually. Yeah, true.
Yeah,
I was going to say that.
Yeah, it was garage, and it was like you were a garage MC. And I don't know, I guess because the tempo, obviously, so that kind of dictated people's flows to a certain degree. So there were obviously significant differences in the way people were writing. But I don't know if you would agree with me, but like, I guess when like people like Kano started coming out, that divide between grime MCs and hip hop rappers kind of came together. Like I've heard Kano spit on hip hop tracks and grime tracks equally as flawless. Whereas I remember coming up, like I used to struggle on garage tracks when people were like, try and spit on. I was like, I couldn't catch the rhythm quite. And then there was people on the other side of garage MCs, and like when they tried to rap on hip hop, it was like too slow for them almost. Like they couldn't, you know. But I think that divide has kind of, I guess, styles have changed as well. And I think grime has become definitely more, when it transitioned from garage into grime, I guess, has become just as lyrical.
Yeah, I mean and I think the garage was still had a little bit of a handshaking, like sort of like dance music and house thing. But when grime came along, it was like, okay, we're gonna go a little bit towards hip hop, but it's going to be a little bit more electro. And one thing that I picked up on when I first heard grime was how minimal it was. It was really minimal. These like dark little stabs and sounds and bass noises, and it was just like a perfect bed for these sort of like new breed of MCs to come and do their thing over, and that's why I like it. But I just don't. It doesn't move me enough to want to start like DJing it or like having mass quantities of it. I guess my affection is more with like the roots of hip hop and the break beat and jazz and soul and funk and that sort of thing. But like I always give anything that, you know, like when dubstep came, I was like, for about like a year, like, oh man, what the hell is this? And then I started to get schooled by some friends on some real like underground dubstep, like Russian dudes and stuff like that. And I was like, holy shit, this stuff is wicked. You know, there's such cool like bass noises, and just like the everyone's starting to experiment with the rhythm of the wobs. So it wasn't just like wob 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 wob. It was just, you know, wob 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 wob, you know, with these kind of different like patterns and stuff coming on. And I like, you know, I kind of came back to it like with British hip hop, and I was like, this is cool. But I still don't really DJ. I've got a few dubstep records. But disclaimer, if you call me for well, not disclaimer, but like a heads up, if anyone calls me to come play a dubstep night, I'm good for about 40 minutes, and then I'll probably run out of records. But I love to, you know, hear just a filthy bass line kicking in, and that was kind of quite prevalent with grime. I think, you know, it was really just felt a bit more rugged than garage,
Where are you getting your records from now? Like, where do you purchase your records from when you want to get new records?
Everywhere I can, really. I think everywhere from like eBay, Discogs. I try and dig locally. I try and I go to record fairs. I sell at record fairs, and I've been doing it for such a time that I've kind of unconsciously sort of built up this network of people all over the world that that if I'm looking for a certain record from that country, for example, in Japan, I went to Japan a couple of years ago. It was my first time there, but I managed to make a connection through a Japanese friend of mine who actually lives in the States. And I connected with these guys out there who were just awesome. They took me digging to like about 7 different record stores around Tokyo. And, but we've stayed in contact, that's another thing that I love when I'm traveling with music is like, I don't really want to go and just do the gig, take the money, drink the beer and go home. I want to, come on, yeah, okay, if your mum's going to cook a good lunch, let's go to your mum's house. Or, hey, yeah, take me to that weird digging spot in the basement, So I try and connect with people. So if I can bring them for a gig or I can go back there, we can do something like that. So with that said, I've just received like a package from Japan last week with some treats in there. And I do the same thing as well, if, Harry man, we're after some dope ex-Yugoslavian stuff, I'll put together a little package and send it over. So just, you kind of just build up that network, really, I guess, where, if you're looking for a certain thing, you can go to certain people. But I think like when I'm trying to buy like new stuff, like recently I've been playing catch up and I've just been buying like stuff that's actually come out in the last 6 months because I dig a lot for old music from the sort of 50s, 60s and 70s and 80s. But I can get to the point where I forget about all the cool shit that's happening now. Because I love digging for old music. I love looking for samples and breaks and stuff like that. But I also love the music that's coming out now. And, it's like you stick your head down one hole for too long, you can miss something else, So I've had last month, I've just been buying recent stuff that's coming out. And basically, when you go on Discogs, I think Discogs is a good, like central hub because there you've got nearly every record shop that I've ever been to is on there in some way or form. And you can then connect with the record store, buy through the Discogs, then you can just buy through the record store if you want, just go through their website or whatever. So I think I'm probably on Discogs the most, just because it's so versatile and I can find nearly anything I want. But HHV in Germany have got a really good selection, and now their postage is really good. For Croatia, when they weren't in the EU, it was horrible postage. There's Lanterna Records in Bulgaria. They're all over the place, like distributors. There's a couple in Serbia. There's a guy here in Zagreb. Used to have a record store in the neighborhood of Prečko, I think it was, of Vrbani, called Magic Records, and he's like a sort of a distributor. He's getting like new stuff in. So it just takes a bit of time, but you sniff around, and then through time you just find this. You've got this network of I want to get some Afrobeat today, and you go to that supplier. Or it's like drugs, man. What do you want? Coke, weed, ash. So but wherever I can, really. But you can't beat digging. Just going out and digging. I love going out, getting my hands dirty, and looking in old basements and secondhand stores, and just finding something, a golden record that's got a break on it, or something I can use, or something I can DJ with, or something that just sounds good to put on while I'm cooking or whatever. And finding it for cheap as well. That's always got more of a chance when you go out in the trenches to find something cheap. With the internet now, everybody's marking up the price of records. And that sort of stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. I just found the other day a record I bought. Maybe I bought it 15 years ago. It's like a Northern Soul record. It wasn't particularly rare. I think I paid about £50 for it. And this isn't a brag. I'm shocked at this. I'm not bragging. I've got all the rare records. But I bought it for about £50. I played it in DJ sets like twice. It was kind of a nice tune, soul tune. And I don't know why. I just stumbled across it the other day. on Discogs for like £750. I was like, what? It's not like a banging tune
Wow.
that you're going to play on DJ sets, but it is a nice tune. But I was like, holy shit. And I saw that the last copy of that was sold for £600. And I'm like, what? So again, totally not a brag. I'm not going to sell it because I love the record, but it's like, you know, that sort of thing is happening now with rare records and things that are in demand. Records that I remember you could get for £10. You could take a trip up to Reading or go somewhere in London, black market records or something, and find it for like £10-15. And now they're like well over 100. You know, it's getting a bit mad. So having that network and knowing where you can go to and having people in different countries that can sort of dig for you and help you out is a huge benefit to getting the good stuff.
I see the cello behind you. Like, do you play?
It's an upright bass, double bass.
It's a bass. Oh, you're double bass.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
I've been learning. I play the bass okay, but I acquired this and I've been practicing. I've put it on a few tracks. I'm good for a loop at the moment, but it's such a different technique to when you're playing like a normal bass. And you really have to have. You really just have to drill it and have exercise. You know, do a lot of exercises with your fingers. You find some fingers are not as strong as others than they would be when you're playing like that. You know, basically just love the sound, and you know, I can make loops with it. You know, I can play it good enough to make some loops. I play it a little bit kind of funky, but yeah, I don't know. I need to practice it a little bit more. You know, I put a bit more time in. At the moment, it's like about 10 minutes a week, which is not enough. I should be doing it a bit more, but it's like, then I got to practice scratching, and I got to finish that break, and then that homie calls, and then maybe a gig, and then like kids need to, you know, get some fresh air. So it's like, there's always something, you know, but I enjoy having it, and it sounds wicked. I've been experimenting with how to mic it up, because it's not like you can just put a jack into it. Yeah. So I've got a couple of like cheap ribbon microphones where you just find a sort of a hot spot, normally somewhere near where the hole is, and you know, have a blast. So yeah.
How advantageous would you say it is for a producer to learn how to play an instrument, if there is any advantages to that?
It's good and bad. I think it's good. I mean, I know some guys who don't play anything and they're making monstrous beats. I think but then if you know too much, or if you think about something too musically, then you can strip some of the feeling out of it.
Okay.
For many, many years, I before I started to make hip hop beats, I could play drums, bass, and guitar to a sort of average standard. And when I started to sample, when I learned about sort of sampling, I learned about it in a very, very sort of uneducated way. You know, I sampled a piano chord. I think it was a piano chord from like a Herbie Hancock record from the 60s, just one chord, and I put it into the sampler and started spreading it across the pads and putting drum hits under it. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is how they do it. This is how Primo does it. This is how Pete Rock, you know, just trying to like, and this is like 96, 97. And they've already had like 1,000 classics at that point. So I was, you know, trying to learn what they've been doing for like 10 years. And then I sort of said, okay, the type of hip hop I'm going to make, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's only going to be with samples. I'm not going to use any of my playing at all. I just didn't want to marry the two together. It was like, you know, introducing like two ex-girlfriend or your ex-girlfriend to, you know, two really like non-compatible people. I was like, I can't do it. And then what I did is like a lot of the music that I made, I would find a sample and I wouldn't think about it musically. I would just pitch the sample until it fit the drum beat. Which is good, but then sometimes when you take that into a studio, or if there is someone that wants to put a flute line over the top or a guitar line, you can find yourself not in a key, you're in between keys, you're somewhere, and that makes things very, very difficult. I mean, luckily, I haven't put myself in that position yet, but there was a situation years ago where I was working on something and somebody was jamming with me in the room, I think on the guitar, and they couldn't lock into it, and then they ended up having to detune the guitar to find the kind of the pitch that I was. So I suppose, but again, you know, if you're not going to overdub like instruments and you know, live instruments, and any instruments can be pitched or downtuned, then it's not something that not something that I would really worry about. So I would say the thing that helped me the most, and I'm not talking like I'm sort of DJ Premier, like some sort of god here, but like limitation is the best thing in art, any art. Just being limited to start with, because that gives you a better idea to search out who you want to be or how you want to represent yourself, whatever art it is, not just music. And I think I had so many people come, famous people as well, who come to the studio, we come and chill, and they bring over a piece of equipment, and it does so much that they can't get their brain around it. It's not that they can't use it, but they just can't. You know, I play them a beat on this crusty MPC 60, which I have, which has like 27 seconds of sample time, you know. So once I've sampled my drums, I'm already down to about 20 seconds. So I can't be taking like big loops, you know. But like that limitation, it forces me to not be greedy on the record and what I'm going to take, or it forces me to think about how I'm going to chop things. It forces that thought. And then as you start to train your brain to think like that, then add all the shit around it. There's, it's got 1 million seconds of sample time and I've got all these filters and all that stuff. Then bring it in, like learn on nothing. Because if you think about it as well, like, and I think you're part of that generation as well, as before we had phones and all the technology that we have now, all the sort of distractions, you just go out in the street with the homies and kick a Coke can around. If you didn't even have a football, you'd kick the Coke can around and that would be the football. Or you would climb up a tree, or you would, I don't know, go and ride a bike with flat tires or something like that. You'd find the fun and the creativity in whatever was available. And I still think that's like a valid way of creating, because if you just go, I'm going to get all the gear, I've got the monitor speakers, I've got the controller, I've got the trigger, I've got the track to this. I know too many dudes who have got so much gear and they don't use it. Or they're like, I've got this piece of gear, it cost me €4,000, and they use the hand clap off of it. It's like, try and use everything that you have, you know, and if you don't have nothing, use, you know, make a snare drum with a mic like that, or, you know, take your I have a track on my album that's coming out, and I was trying to get this kind of, I wanted to do something stupid, so my wife came in the studio, I had the mic set up, and I just slapped her lovingly on the bum, and I sampled that as a hand clap and laid it under a snare. Sounds fat. And so my wife gets the arse credits on that, you know, because it was like, you know. But it was, like I said, it was like, hey, can I just try this? I got the mic here, and she said, like, rolled her eyes. Oh, yeah, all right. And just, you know, and it was just funny. But I used to do stuff like that when I was a kid. Drop a set of keys into my hand, you know, put the mic there and then use that as a percussive thing, or, you know, just be experimental and be minimal, and don't overthink it. Because I've tried to make hip hop where it's just instruments, and I can do it, but I have to go to that like place of like, this is all I've got, just got this one chord, or we'll try and be a bit more minimal in, not necessarily in the sound, but in the thought, and not go, now I've got that, now I've got to put some strings, I've got to put that layer in, I've got to put that layer in, you know, just like let it grow kind of, you know, organically, I guess, and don't overthink it.
Yeah. No, that's, I think that's 100% like a perfect explanation. You reminded me of two different people while you were saying that. There's one dude who made a beat for me in Macedonia, in Kumanovo, who was like arguably like it's the song that I have out that has the most views or whatever. And he sent it to me, and I was like, yo, this just sounds fat, this beat. And then I went to his house a few months later, and I just saw the PC he made it on. It was like this PC that was falling apart with this like drum machine in the corner, and I was like, you made the beat on that. That's fucking amazing. I don't know how you did that. And then the complete opposite of that is this dude I know who grew up in my area, and I remember him saying that he wanted to start making beats, and I can't remember where he was working at the time, but he was making a decent wage. And he just bought like every piece of equipment he could think of. Like, and I
Yeah,
went to
yeah.
his room and he had and I was like, I don't even know if he started ever making music. I don't even know if he started. I just remember going, so what have you done? He's like, oh, nothing. He was so intimidated by everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a lot to take on, man. It's a lot to take on, and I don't know. Obviously it's something I've got a lot to say about, because when I was sort of coming up and taking it seriously, I was like really anti any new technology, because I was like, oh, Serato, fuck anybody that uses Serato, fuck anybody that uses trigger pads and this sort of stuff. And anything like any new technology, because like in my stupid little closed-minded brain at the time, I kind of felt like, well, I've been sitting in my room for years, learning how to do this shit, learn how to chop samples, learn how to mix records and do backspins and loop breaks. And now you're going to just shortcut all that. You're going to shortcut all of that, like really important, like self-teaching or stuff that was, kind of coming up. Now I can learn everything now just by having an internet connection. Every type of scratch, every type of technique it's out there. People are giving it away, and the technology that came along. Of course, now I've grown. My mentality has changed, and I think a piece of equipment is just a tool to be able to create and do something, whatever it is. So I'm not hating on anyone anymore, because I've seen dudes like you said, with the guy with the messed up computer, who they've got. It barely works. The keyboard looks like someone ate their lunch off of it. Just this messed up thing. And they're making killer beats because they've got the ear and they're like, shit, this is all I've got. They've spent hours looking for that, break or whatever. And, all power to people like that, because it just goes to show you that, you shouldn't get caught in that like equipment trap. And I have before. In my studio, I'm always buying and selling something. If I'm not using something, I'll sell it to buy something else. And there have been times where I've sold something, and I'm like, I wish I never sold that. And then I went and bought it again, or, and nothing in my studio, apart from my computer and my turntables, which I got when I was 17, nothing was bought brand new. I buy everything secondhand. It's easier. And you just can meet someone who might have some more gear for sale, or they looked after it, or, they know they got the original rachun, the receipt, stuff like that. So I think, take it easy, man. Don't go and buy everything. Just like learn on what you got. But your original point is being a musician. I don't know, there's a guy, it's just one guy that comes to mind, and I'll close my comments on this, but there's a guy from New Zealand called DJ Spell, and I think he won the DMC, or he came in the top 3 at the DMC, and he's this phenomenal turntablist and a very good producer. And I think he tried to embrace like MPCs and beat machines, and it didn't work for him, so he kind of does stuff, I think, more with a computer. But if you check him out, DJ Spell, check out some of his like videos and stuff. He's a musician. He can play keys. He can play bass and all this stuff. And shit sounds like someone that listens to hip hop. That's the thing. You can't, if you know all the chords and you have all the snare drums and all the sounds, it won't sound like hip hop if you don't understand hip hop or listen to it. And I'm not saying, well, you have to know Pete Rock and DJ Premier. I don't want to come across as someone from that era, but it's like hip hop has a certain feeling in there, and you can have all the sounds and all the samples, but to be able to create that feeling, you have to, I guess, educate yourself a little bit on just by listening to it. Just by listening to music every day is an education. That's what DJs do and artists do, just listening to stuff all the time, listening to arrangements, listening to how things have been mixed, listening to, how the mastering is and that sort of stuff. And, so I think, and I've heard this saying a lot in the last few years, stay in your lane, stay in your lane. You don't have to stay in your lane. You can go in all the lanes, but know the lane that you're in, know it a little bit, and that's my closing words on that subject.
No, that I actually 100% agree with that. you reminded me of have you ever seen any of these Steinberg Cubase tutorial videos? I haven't seen any for a while, but they used to do these tutorials by like they're basically done by makers of the software, and they're like, this is how you make this kind of beat, this is how you make this kind of beat. And whenever they would do,
right, cool,
yeah, and like I remember I caught one where they were teaching how to make a hip hop beat, and it was like,
cool.
oh yeah, the BPM and everything. It was, but to go back to what you said, there was just I didn't get that feeling. It was like, yeah, it's a hip hop beat. You showed us how to make it, but I couldn't feel it. It was like, yeah, like, but technically everything you did was like, okay, sure.
Yeah. On point. Yeah.
Everything's on point. Like, I can't fault that, but it was just like, it just felt very robotic.
Totally. I get that as well when I watch some of these things. I tell you, there's a, if you haven't seen it, there's I think it's called Rhythm Roulette. I don't know if you've ever seen these Rhythm Roulettes. What they do is they get like, I think it's called Rhythm Roulette. Is it called Rhythm Roulette? I think it is, yeah. They get like well-known producers. So they got people like LP from Company Flow and Run the Jewels. They get like Eric Sermon, Les, I think, from the Beatnuts. Loads of producers, like, producers that we love or we know. And they go into the local record store, they blindfold them, and they have to go in and pick 3 records and then make some beats from those records. So if you watch any of those, check out any one. If you listen to like all of the producers, all of the well-known ones, like Eric Sermon, for an example, I mean, his, for some, his might not be the best beats, but he goes in there, he takes 3 records, like blindfolded, and he takes things from these records. And it's like his sound. It's like the Eric. You go, oh yeah, that's the Eric Sermon bass line straight away. He's got a special sound with a bass, or oh yeah, the way Les cut up that sample. It's like really short, kind of like the late Beatnut sound. Isn't it fascinating that like through hip hop, which is 100% born as a sample based music, that you can have all these men and women, these producers from all over the world, that can go to a record, extract something from that record, and make a beat out of it, and make their own sound from someone else's thing. I just find that fascinating. That I could go to a record that DJ Premier sampled, and I could sample it too, and it wouldn't sound like DJ Premier. I could flip it in my own way, which a lot of cats do. I think it's awesome, and this Rhythm Roulette, you just hear that how a good producer can, it's all different equipment. It's not about the MPC. Some dudes are using keyboards and ASRs and computers and stuff like that. But you can just hear how people establish and they get their own sound through a record, or through maybe they took one bass note and they spread it across the keyboard. I don't know. I find that that's hip hop. It's doesn't often happen in any other genre of music, because hip hop largely has a history of borrowing from other music to like reinterpret. But I also love hip hop that is without samples. So I love it all, man. I love it all. If it feels good. If it feels like, yo, man, this person really knows, the MC is going, the beat feels right. It doesn't feel like someone on a sort of tutorial video going, okay, we're going to set our metronomes to 93 BPM, and we're going to take a stab, and we're going to, put the swing on 68, and it's like, come on, man.
Do you have any strong views between? Because I remember when I was doing music B Tech in college in Top. There was always had this debate about digital versus analog. Do you have any strong opinions about that?
No, I don't know, man. I don't know. I embrace both. I'll put it to you like this. If you ever see me DJing and I've got a laptop, it's shitty money that I'm getting paid for that gig.
Okay.
That sounds terrible. No, that sounds terrible. I love to play records. Obviously, I dig them all the time, and that's, I don't get a record and then rip everything and put it onto Serato. So if you see a Dirty Hairy set with a laptop, and then you see me with a vinyl. It's like two different blokes. I can't play the same. I don't think the same, because when I'm in a record box taking a record out, I take the record out, look at the label, and I play it in my head. With Serato or Tractor or any other kind of software, I can have my headphones on and I can listen to 20 tunes in like 20 seconds. I just start, that one go, and I have all this information available. So, I mean, look, in terms of production, I think that unless you're really 100% hardcore embracing the analog sound, so to look at someone like Malcolm Catto in the UK, who's done phenomenal Afrobeat recordings, has an amazing studio of like old 60s and 70s gear and guitar pedals and just all hardware, and the sound he gets out of the drums is unbelievable. So you've got like Malcolm Catto, you've got like Daptone, what they're doing in New York. They're, you know, it's all ribbon mics and compressors, and it's like recording a whole horn section on one mic. I love how analog sounds. I love it. I love the sound of it. But then one thing I suppose I don't like is I don't like combining analog and digital in my production and stuff like that. I don't like the idea of that. So if I'm putting Rose on a track, it's going to be a real Rose. It's not going to be like a VST. So I guess, you know, with the digital side of things, I just like how, you know, from a DJ context, you know, maybe it's getting later on into the evening, and you know, you've played soul, you've played funk, you've played, I don't know, reggae or Latin, and you want things to get a little bit harder. You want the kicks to be a little bit harder. You want to, you know, kind of go somewhere with that. You know, the electronic music, even disco and boogie in the 80s, which was predominantly using drum machines as well. That kind of offers that frequency and that like step up in how the night is going, I suppose. Do I prefer one or the other? Yeah, I prefer analog, but I embrace both. And I used to very much be like fuck digital. You know, I was totally that guy. But then you just grow up, really. I think, you know, if now, and I encourage anybody to do this. If there's something that you really, really dislike in art, try and figure out why you don't like it, and try and figure out, like, if you did like it, how you might be able to incorporate it into what you do. And that's not to say that I'm going to go make grind beats tomorrow or dubstep, but like, I start to listen to it and understand it, and understand and watch people react to it and see how they feel about it, and whether it's like, you know, analog or digital, you know. And there's some people I know put like on a very digital sounding track with like those kind of frequencies, and it immediately moves them, it touches them in some way. Whereas, like, you know, with other people, you know, that you put something on that's sort of James Brown feel or something, some horns, some dap tones, or some Afrobeat kind of, you know, some Fela Kuti or something like that, that's got that kind of real feel, recorded tape, and it's a bit kind of, the signals are pushed up a little bit hot, and it sounds kind of raw. People are moved by those as well. And then I suppose we've got just dickheads like me that just love it all, really. I just love it all. But I definitely grew up analog, just analog. And somewhere along the line, I don't know where it was, probably early 2000s, 2005, 2006, I started to sort of embrace, more the like digital thing. And I didn't start DJing with Serato. I was DJ since 96. And I didn't start using Serato until, like, digital DJing until, I think 2010, which is like not that long ago, really. You know, I just was totally, and if you think about, I mean, okay, CDJs, but then if you think about like playing with laptops and that sort of stuff, that didn't really kick into like 99, 98, 90, I think 99, you know. So I was just like, nah. And then, you know, when I started to work with MCs, I suppose that's when I really started to embrace digital DJing more, because I needed to have their instrumentals. I needed to do the after party or the you know, something like that. So yeah, but love them both. Gotta love them both. But like, if I'm in a music store, you'll only see records under my hand. I don't have anything in my home that can play a CD. So don't ever give me a CD. Okay. It'll be either a coaster or a frisbee.
That's jokes. What advice would you give to anybody who's trying to get into production?
Yeah, man. Don't stay in your lane. Go in all of them. Think about, you know, when you make something, whatever it is, just, you know, I guess, remember that feeling that you get, you know, that when you feel like, whoa, I want people to hear this. This feels good. Listen to the drums. Whoa, oh, wow, I got that sound. When you get that feeling, remember it, document it, write it down, or keep hold of it. Try and do it more, you know, and only do it for fun. For the moment, it's not fun.
Right.
See you later. Go out the door. Don't put pressure on yourself. Just have fun with it and find out what you want to do. It's very difficult when you're in a small, I think, country like Croatia. I found when I came here, and this may be applicable to people that also live in small countries or they live in sort of small towns, is that like you release something or you do something. Oh, Harry made a hip hop tune for this guy, and then Harry, he's a hip hop guy, and you know people really, I think, get to know you more if you're just doing one thing. You know, if you're just doing hip hop and you love hip hop and that's all you want to do, cool, just go and do it and be the hip hop guy. But if you have more in your heart, you have more to say, and I always do. Hip hop has always been in my heart, and it always will. But it's not where it starts and finishes for me. You know, I've always been, I think, pretty deep and pretty interested in funk and grooves, in Afro, Latin, disco, psychedelic stuff. A little bit of house and drum and bass too. Those are in my collection. Those are things I love. Those are things I can play, and I don't want to. I don't want to be restricted to just one. Right. You know, so the DJs and friends of mine that can go out there and play. I mean, I can do that, but because I'm in a small place, I'll give you an example. I played a gig just this Saturday, and I knew what kind of crowd was there, and I knew what I would love to play, and I knew what, if I did play, that's going to make everyone happy and cheer and dance. So, you know, I made a mistake. I played what they wanted, and I didn't play what I wanted, which is, you know, I wanted to play the shit that I want, because that's why I started to sort of become a DJ. So always do what you want, even if you empty the place out. Do what you want. If you make fucking hardcore liquid drum and bass or whatever, and the first tune that you put on empties the place, just stick with it. You need 10 of those gigs for it to improve. But yeah, you know, you just got to do, you know. People might be watching this now and going, who the fuck is this guy? He's got a weird beard. He's got a hat like Fred Durst. Clearly he's perspiring because there's no window open in the studio. Who am I? I don't know, man. I'm somebody that like didn't jump over to the commercial side of making music. I still make the same sort of music that I did when I was 17, 18, 19. Which you might go, well, maybe that's why you're not very successful, Harry. And it's like, to me, I am successful because I enjoy what I do. People listen to my stuff. I only need 100 to 200 people to listen to my stuff. That's all I need. I don't need to, you know, be anywhere else. But I put out music regularly. Labels approach me to put it on vinyl. I get to, you know, DJ and play my own music. I get to work on music all day, every day, and I don't have to walk down the street and be like some sort of, you know, legendary, you know, I can just be a dude that makes decent music and enjoys it. So there's obviously steps above that. This is like a really long answer to your question. All right, I'll simplify it. Don't stay in your lane. Do whatever you want. Don't buy tons of equipment if you're just starting out. And make sure it's always fun. There you go. That's a stripped down. That's a better answer than me going around the houses about all that shit.
But you answered another question I had, which was about success, because people are always saying, like, especially when it comes to art, like particularly music in particular, people see success as being, when I say people, I guess the masses, let's say, see success as being, oh yeah, you're on the TV, you're on the radio, this and that. And it's like, that's a type of success, I guess, sure. But, and maybe you may argue that is, I don't know, society wise, that's the height of success. But there's lots of, like, success is relative, basically. I
Totally. I agree. And I think that it's, just just going out there, working on something that you love. Every day I get up and I try and create something, whether it's like a new scratch pattern or it's a beat or I finish something that I need to finish. Every day I'm doing music, and I'm not like, I haven't got a gazillion followers on Instagram. I'm not this or that, but like I'm doing, what I love, and it's vaguely sustainable. I don't have the like BMW outside and the swimming pool and all that kind of rubbish. But then, my sound doesn't, my sound is not aligned with someone that, I don't think there's anybody that makes the kind of stuff that I'm making, even at the top of the game, that is really living like that. So for me, it has to be fun. The moment it stops being fun, then I don't know, I'll go and get a shitty office job and earn loads of money. But for me, it's just fun being myself, doing what I'm doing, learning from old and young, trying to branch out into other things as well. And also, the generation like my mother, who was born in the 50s, she didn't understand when I got into music and I started making music, and she didn't understand that if you weren't like, Justin Bieber or something like that, or like if you weren't, that's a bad example, but if you're not on the TV or people are wearing T-shirts and stuff like that, then she didn't realize that there's sort of a place in the middle, that, and I sort of taught her that, like, look, there's Justin Bieber, doing world tours and girls crying and all that kind of stuff and music videos. Then there's like a crackhead in his bedroom with like, an old drum machine. And then there's me somewhere in the middle. I don't know what it is. It's not really fame. It's, let's say, respect amongst peers. Let's say, just someone that's enjoying to put stuff out, and someone where, maybe the phone rings every now and again with some good news on it to come and perform or come and do stuff, So, but I think you're only going to arrive at that level and beyond if you just keep going. You just keep doing it all the time, I mean, just keep record it every time you sit down, record that shit, whatever it's going to be. Every time you're just growing into what you think you want to become, just you document it and remind yourself, I love this. This is so cool. I'm so grateful that I have this piece of equipment, or I have this computer, or I have an internet connection. I kind of, it's a bit of a weird hippie thing, but I kind of thank the room, the studio. I thank the gear. I walk past every now and again, like look in and go, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that I have these speakers, or that. I'm not talking about top of the range gear. I'm just talking about some gear to create something on. It's just like, thank you for, for being there and working and not breaking. But yeah, man. A lot of talking.
No, man, it's beautiful. I could talk about this all day, but where can people find your music if they want to hear what you're doing?
I think I'm in all the usual spots. I've been a little bit late to the party on Spotify, so I'm on Spotify. You can hear me there, but there's going to be like at some point in the next 2 or 3 months, because I've got projects that are being mastered, there's going to be like a huge influx of like stuff uploaded, because I haven't got all of my stuff yet on Spotify. It takes a little bit of time. So I'm on Spotify, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, all the kind of usual places. And you can buy some of my records from places like HHV, from Juno, definitely on Discogs and eBay. I've had quite a few records out and been on different compilations and worked with different artists. So there's a lot of stuff out there. You can Google me and find something, that's for sure. But this year there's a lot of stuff coming out because I was busy during the quarantines and all those times. So I just made a lot of music, and in about 2 months I'll be dropping my first ever solo album, which is really exciting. So, but all the usual spaces, I think, even YouTube, Deezer, iTunes, all those places, there's something out there that that you can hear. And I think predominantly most of the stuff that's out there at the moment is of a jazzy hip hop nature. That's kind of where I like to hang out. But there is a lot of projects that I've done with Croatian artists like General Wu, Špica Magellano, Pendrick, Kanjia. I've done work with those guys, and there's stuff out there. And I've also got other projects that are non-hip hop based projects, which I won't talk about them yet until they've grown into what they're being. But like every week, you know, there's something I'm up to, which is kind of alongside of hip hop. Because if I just did hip hop all day, every week, I might go crazy. I need to have a break and play a jazzy bass line, or you know, like drop a different tempo, you know. So yeah, man. But I'm out there everywhere pretty much. But in you know, low key at the moment, low key. Because I think as well, just to finish up, the bulk of my career, if I can call it that, has been kind of serving other people. You know, when you produce something like hip hop, where rappers want to rap on those type of beats, the emails go off, the phone goes off. Oh man, can you make me a beat? Oh, could I buy a beat? This and that. And so I've got loads of music out there, but it's not always under my name. That's the other thing. So you might watch this and go, oh, why don't I look on Spotify and he's just got some shitty track? And it's not like that. It's only in the last like 6 months or a year that I've started to actually go, I should do some solo stuff, really. It's been a long old slog surfing these smelly, you know, weed-infused MCs. I need to do some of my own stuff. So that's why in a couple of months I got the album. It's being mastered as we speak. We've got an album coming out, which is an instrumental affair. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's called Pegs. And yeah, it should be out end of March. So that's going to be dope. And then after that, an influx of other projects and things. It's just you can only master one thing at a time. So my engineer that I work with, he's doing my LP. Then we get on to the next one and the next one. So hopefully my old online accounts will be a bit more full by the end of the year. But there's some stuff to vibe on for now. And yeah, check it out.
All right. Awesome, bro. It's been an awesome conversation. I'll let you get on with the rest of your day. And
thanks, my man.
And yeah, man, I definitely got to holler at you when next time I'm in Zagreb, man. For sure.
Yeah, let's get a Pljeskavica or something, man, and go and have a few rakias. But no, it was good talking to you, man. Yeah, keep up the good work, and I'm sure we'll hear each other these days.
Man, vidimo se.
Show me your true colours. White fight, let's unite, let's see your true colours. Whether it's dark or light, let's see your true colours. The black and white, they ain't even true.